of the videographer, town clerk. We have Everett Mark Bills, our road supervisor, Gwen Tanza, Selectman Stan Noga, Bruce Mello, Don Maggio, also Selectman on Zoom. We have Dave Jones and we have Sarah Lang from who will be speaking to us shortly from the Southern Vermont Economy Project Manager. Okay, any changes to the agenda?
Question. There was a notification, and I can't find my copy of it, requiring that the town have had report of road work to be done, and it needed to be filed with the AOT, I think, on October 1st. Is that anything that's going to be discussed tonight, whether that deadline was met, what the report was all about?
Oh, I'm not no, I don't have any
Okay.
information on that.
Alright.
If it came in and it was road related, I may have sent it off to Archie. Do you know if we?
I don't recall seeing anything of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
The next issue was BCA, you had mentioned, sent us a report, and you set up a meeting date and time for that?
Oh, that was for the redistrict?
Yes, redistrict, but the
Yes.
BCA has to go through it, correct?
Right, if in fact it affects our town,
Okay,
they're gonna be sending us, they're gonna keep us updated with what's going on, but they said if we wanted to set a meeting date, but we've never had to, so
okay.
I'll look at it when I get more information.
Sam, so your two questions, so that Peter can hear it, is a question about agency of transportation.
Yeah,
October 1st deadline for something that I can't recall.
yeah, I, in my hurriedness to get stuff organized for tonight, I came across a notice, of an email from a Department of Transportation that requested or reminded us of the date of October 1st to have the requests for either grants or budget that is required to be reported to AOT, and they were reminding us that October 1st was the deadline date.
Yeah, my bet is that was the municipal mitigation grant deadline, which was October 1st.
Okay, that's what it was.
Which we could add something under roads for me to just talk briefly about that, because we did submit a grant request related to the salt sand shed. So we could talk about that under that.
Okay,
Thank you, Dave.
thank you, David.
Yeah,
Sure.
that was a while ago.
Anything else for changes to the agenda? All right, I've added under the
one other
question
thing.
under highways and roads.
I don't know if anyone got the opioid notification of the ability
Yeah,
to
yours-
join the suit. I didn't know with our budget situation what it is, if it was something that would apply to us in terms of acquiring any additional funds from another source. I didn't know what the requirements were, if we have any knowledge of what specific.
I just got a letter yesterday in regards to that, the opioid settlement,
Yes, yeah,
and
we have-
it's for the statewide.
right. But I think you have to, as a town, take the action of joining the suit by filing a document
Mhm.
to that effect. And I didn't know if that was anything that would be, if anyone had done, if that's on the agenda for discussion tonight, I didn't see that.
No, that
It's
just,
not on the agenda for discussion tonight. I did not read it. I did print it out. But we can put it under communications. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, then we will take a look at the September 15th regular meeting minutes. And we'll go over any corrections that we have for that. On page 1 of 3, I had a couple of items that I'd like to modify. Under open review, discuss, vote on electrical bills. I wanted to add after the amount that's listed, $2,074, that this also includes additional outside lighting upgrades. Under new business, item B. October, it's the, it should say October 5th, and it should say FEMA workshop, not ARPA, it's FEMA.
I'm sorry, which one, what number is this?
Item B under new business, it should say October 5th, and it should be FEMA workshop.
And the correction should be made on was,
The date and the name of the,
no, a correction on there was discussion. It's kind of got like a little hyphenated
Oh.
thing.
okay, yeah, the word was discussion, there was a little foreign mark.
And the date should be October 5th, not 19th.
This is number B,
Yeah,
October 5th, 2021, FEMA workshop.
okay.
I'm guessing, I went through this the other day and that's what I noticed. I also have under C, Flood Resilient Communities Fund, add to, okay, there was discussion of new federal funds and conversation with Mr. Clark to apply for funds. I wanted to add the words to apply for funds.
Going back to open review, discuss voter electrical bill bids. In light of the fact that the first line of the second paragraph references outside lighting at the town office.
Yes, Peter's gonna have to hear you. He's
Okay.
gonna be doing this.
Okay, and the first correction, I just want to know if that wanted to be in addition to the fact that that outside lighting was mentioned in the first line of the second paragraph.
All right.
Was there something additional to what was already stated, or is that the same thing?
It's the same thing, I'm
Okay.
sorry, let's strike that, let's strike my first correction under upgrades,
No,
I'm just too,
working,
yeah.
and retired.
My last correction on page 1 of 3 is, it says there was under old business, second paragraph, there was discussion about the budget, unexpected expenses such and such. And Mr. Bills will bring further information for the September 22nd meeting. We didn't have a meeting on September 22nd, so I'm not sure when that was supposed to.
It's a good.
I think the premise of it was probably it was going to be the next meeting, so it would probably was intended to be this meeting.
Okay, October.
Peter just probably got the date wrong or heard, or we might have said something wrong, so.
Right, all right, so it's October 6th. That's all I had on page 1. Anybody else have anything for page 1? Page 2? Bruce,
Under Historic Buildings Committee,
Historic Buildings Committee.
discussion of future plans for ground schoolhouse. Mr. Mello discussed a possible RFP for needed work. No, I don't remember just discussing a request for proposal for anything.
So you're saying there was no discussion about requesting a RFP?
No, I can recall. And then there was something else here. If you go down to discussion, number 2, discussion of future plans for Brookline Meeting House. The last
You want page 1 or page 2?
It's on page 2 of 3.
Page 2. I
Item
can
2.
repeat, got one.
Okay.
Number 2 under historic buildings. The last sentence, Mr. Miller suggested there was a lack of organization in dealing with the building. Lack of direction, not organization, in dealing with the building. So I kind of don't like that really.
Okay, I don't think they liked it either. So the word is direction, not organization.
Not organization, absolutely not. And that's it for me, I think, if I could read.
So you had 2 corrections, one under historic buildings, discussion of further plans. Mr. Mello did not discuss any RFP for needed work, although you talked about this. Will be a list at some time that we will discuss.
Right there.
And that, under discussion of future plans, you were reduced, take out the word organization and put in direction. I also have a correction in that paragraph, wherever the name David Schutt is, it should be Schutt. SCHUPP. David Shuck from Brookline landowner, and a donation from David Shuck's gift. So, and the last thing was the committee had $27,000 given by the Ladies Benevolent Society, not by the town.
Samara's on the waiting room.
Anything else for, anybody else for anything on page 2 of 3? Page 3 of 3. I had a question about under beavers or humans adding wood to the culvert. The very last sentence, it says, and has a new representative. There was discussion of prices and of a persistent flooding situation involving a high volume pump. Is that Mr. Dawson's pump? Maybe we mentioned that?
Yeah.
Okay, we can drop that mention of the pump that was talking about a resident who had water problems in his basement on Parker Road. And that is it for me. Anybody else have anything? Okay, all right, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from Samara. Do you have a question? No, she's
No, I just don't know.
yeah, she's in the bathroom there. Hi, Samara.
Hi, Kamala.
Let's see. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amended minutes for September 15, 2021 at this time. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan Nova. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the amended minutes of September 15, 2021 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes as amended pass. Next, we will go to the minutes from our special meeting on September 24, 2021. There's only one page of minutes. Does anybody have any changes or amendments to this set of minutes? No, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from the special meeting on Friday, September 24th, 2021, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Bruce Mello abstains. The minutes are approved as written with one abstention. Scheduled members of the public. We have online Sarah Lang from the Southern Vermont Economy Project Manager. Sarah said that she would like to have about 5 minutes of our time to talk about the program and just to fill us in a little bit. Sarah, welcome. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And Dot, thank you for making a phone call to make sure that I was here. Sarah Lang, I work with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. We are one of the 12 regional development corporations in the state of Vermont, and we service the Wyndham region, for which Brookline is a part of. And typically we try to attend at least one select board meeting every year in every town that we service. And like I was saying to Dot earlier on the phone, we'll come as many times as you let us. So if you ever have any questions about any of our programs or services, we are always happy to come back and talk more in depth. And if I understand correctly, Dot, I have 5 minutes tonight.
About 5 minutes, yeah.
Great, okay. So first of all, I really want to thank you all and thank the town for supporting us this past town meeting with some appropriations. We asked all towns in our service area to provide funding at $3 per person. And we really appreciate your support in this past town meeting. And this past town meeting season, we actually had 18 of the 27 towns support us. And that is up from, I think, 16 last year. And Brookline and Townsend were the 2 new towns. So we really, really appreciate it. Every little bit helps. And, happy to answer any questions about that. But really, I just wanted to give you some updates on our programs and services. Dot, were you able to provide the select board with the stuff that I sent via email?
You sent some things today? No.
I believe it was yesterday when I had responded to your email. Anyways, I'll make sure that you all have it. Essentially, it's our funding request letter, which we sent by mail this summer, and then also a select board visit overview. I don't know if we'll let me show you, but it basically just has some information on our programs. The ones I really wanted to highlight are the program that I run, the Southern Vermont Economy Project, funded by USDA, and we provide capacity building trainings and programs for municipalities, for nonprofits around economic development. So, for instance, we're running a project development series right now to really help volunteers up their project management, their grant writing, their project stewardship skills, and the next course in that is grant writing. So that may be of interest to anyone at the town or potential residents in Brookline. And you can find all this information on our website. Another thing I want to highlight is our Pipelines and Pathways program. We're in all of the high schools, and we help students with career preparedness. And I believe Brookline sends students to Leland and Gray. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So this past year at Leland and Gray, we completed a senior survival class for all seniors that includes soft skills around career preparedness. And there were 19 students that graduated with Wyndham Work Ready mini credentials. And we're basically expanding services into all of the high schools with the goal of really starting with kids their freshman year to prepare them to be ready to work or go to college, whichever their path is right for them. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is our business assistance program. So actually this past year, we expanded from 1 staff person to 3 staff people. So we now more than ever have capacity to really help each and every business in our region. There's a variety of things that go along with it, but most of our services are free or low cost. And, we're here to help someone that has an idea for a business start a business through sort of the growth phase of the business. We also do lending and we help people with their business plan. So I'll pause there because I only have 5 minutes. Happy to answer any questions. And again, I can send all of this to you in an email so you have links and everything.
Yeah, I would appreciate, I got a little busy between yesterday afternoon and today, and I think I noticed this 38 emails that another 38 emails in my box that I hadn't opened up, so I apologize for that, but if you have sent it to me, I will send it to everybody else as well.
Great, and I usually send that out a week prior to the meeting. I just want to make sure. I would have done it had I known, and here we are, so happy to send it. Yeah.
Stan has a question.
Yes, Sarah, you had mentioned regarding new businesses, you referenced funding. Do you arrange funding or do you provide funding?
Both.
Both. Interesting.
Yeah, so recently we've become a lending institution. So we do provide, can provide loans for specific types of businesses in specific sectors. There are some sort of nuances to that. But there are a variety of products, mostly sort of low interest loans. We're really interested in sort of helping those businesses that can't get those traditional loans that they could just get at a bank for a variety of reasons. So we're trying to sort of fill that gap of like someone starting a business, maybe not being able to get a loan until they're whatever size or have whatever net worth. We're trying to fill that gap. So a lot of small businesses in our area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I really like the idea of what you did with Leland and Gray, giving them some skills for work ready. and their many credentials. I think that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to reading about it, and while this might be our first meeting, we probably will have you back again once we get a little better understanding of what's going on and.
Exactly. And like I mentioned, like if you look through the overview that I send you and there's a specific program or a specific loan or a specific anything, we are happy to come back, talk about business, talk about students, talk about workforce, talk about talent retention, you name it, we'll gladly come back as many times as you'll allow us.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and you're also available by phone call if we have some particular like questions you said.
Yep.
And
Yeah, phone call, email. I'm pretty quick on my email. So yeah, happy to answer any questions in whatever method works for people.
well, I'll have to admit, when I called Sarah, we played phone tag, I realized that I did draft her a letter after the last meeting, and it was in my draft folder, I never sent it.
Oh.
So I went and looked and I saw that it was never sent, and I called and we worked it out for tonight, but I apologize. That
No,
happens.
it's totally okay. And
More than once. All right, Sarah, well, thank you very much for joining us. You're welcome to
Thank you.
stay on tonight if you'd like to, but I understand if you wanted to sign off and enjoy your evening.
it is dinner time in the household, so I will be heading. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it and look forward to coming to future meetings.
All right, well,
Thank you.
thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm glad we
Take
could
care.
work it out.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. We have Samara Sawick, unscheduled members of the public. Samara, would you?
Yeah.
Hi, Samara.
Hi,
Yeah,
Dot.
hey,
I
hey,
had
how you
to,
doing?
yeah, I wanted to briefly, I couldn't remember if I said I was going to be here for this meeting or not, so I thought I better show up. And two, yeah, there are a couple of things that I noted on your agenda that I wanted to address briefly. And one thing regarding my personnel status, I wanted to let you know briefly. And also I wanted to mention some of the road work issues that we've noted on our hill, both as a thanks and we hope there's more to come. And so I'll start with, on the agenda items, I noted you're looking at HR issues, and as Dot may or may not have filled some of the others of you in, we've talked on the phone a lot about the lack of continuity in the Treasury Department since my retirement, my so-called retirement. And I think I have emphasized over time that I think it's really one of the options. There are several different structural options that can be done to organize both the financial reporting and treasury management. And I'm trying to put together some written recommendations, which include the fact that I truly think from my own perspective that it's time for us to hire a real bookkeeper. And the advantages of that is it's not an elected position. If the person isn't competent, you can fire them or ask them to resign. And if they are competent, then you'll be happy to have a real bookkeeper who understands accounting and who isn't floundering and trying to learn as they go, which is a problem for many towns. We are not unique. And I've talked ad nauseum to NEMRIC people about what other towns are dealing with and what their recommendations are. And so I'm putting together a written summary of that, which I should have to you in about a week. And I'll just email it to all of you. And it's just for your consideration, because I know you're trying to consider how to make the administration of the town just run more smoothly. So that's part one. And Dot, you can share whatever I've talked to you about. I'm totally fine with it. I'm just trying to put it together in a more formal way. Because I think it's an ongoing issue. And again, we are not alone. And I know you're considering whether or not to have an audit. And many towns who have a treasurer, book, town clerk in one position do have an external audit. And that is one option that you could look to, just knowing that, you know, the cost for an audit is about $15,000 minimum. So just be prepared for that when you come to budget time. Okay, and then the second thing on my mind, and I'll jump to the road work that was done in response to the emergency situation, the emergency flooding that's happened. I wrote a letter, my husband and I sat down and wrote a letter 3 different ways, and I have to amend it again, because when we started, nothing had been done. And then when I revamped it, quite a bit has been done, and we are very, very happy about that. And we're hoping it's only the beginning, because the dirt roads in our town, I think we struggle because we have a very small road crew. And what my husband and I ascertained is that it seems like Whitney Hill Road is one of the last roads to be addressed. And we took the time and came into town office and found out we are the second most populated dirt road in the town, based on tax parcels, second only to the Grassy Brook Road that goes up to Athens. And I think there's a high level of discontent based on the fact that we seem to be, as I will quote one of my neighbors saying, the armpit of Brookline. And we would like to see a more maybe a long-term written plan of regular road maintenance. So that's our suggestion. And I do intend to finalize something in writing and put it in writing, because I really appreciate the work that's done. We just would like to see something more systematic, and specifically when there's an emergency situation, maybe call on more outside contractors. So that's that. And then last but not least, you need to know that I told Michael and Judy yesterday that as of the end of October, I'm officially resigning. I can't maintain the town work and handle the current family issues that I'm handling with the death of my father. So I wanted you guys to know that officially. So that's all I've got. And it's just for your consideration. And I wanted to make sure that I shared it in a, in a timely manner. In the meantime, I'm going to try and finish as much as I can by the end of the month. And both Michael and Judy have been, I'm available for their questions, and they're both working pretty hard. So that's good. And what isn't done, I will leave a list of what needs to be done, but I can't keep it up anymore. I just can't. So I wanted you all to know. And, I don't mean to be critical, because I know you guys work hard and you're all basically volunteers, but I thought I just wanted to let you know what some of the stuff that Dot and I have talked about already, and that I'm trying to put together some kind of formal ideas that I've had about different alternatives for the financial management of the town. That's it.
Your input is very important in this respect. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things. When we had the emergency storm, we went to a Fema meeting yesterday, and they do recommend that we have long-term written plans for regular road maintenance, so that we have before emergency, then we can have emergency during pictures, and then follow up repair pictures. So having a plan available for maintenance or culvert. We may already have it, I'm not sure, but it's something that needs to be reviewed, and it is on my task list for tonight to discuss a little bit more. But and I didn't know you were coming tonight. We'd love to have you help us tie up the end of the year. And is Michael, do you think Michael will be able to step in your shoes and help us with the budgeting, or is he not that ready?
I can't speak for Michael. He's certainly smart enough to do it. And Dave basically handled a lot of the budgeting last year. I don't think honestly, you really need me. What you need are year-end financials for the prior year, and I will try and wrap those up. There are just a few minor adjustments to be made, and the financial statements are done. I'm going to recommend that you change the format for the financial statements this year, because basically one of my recommendations is to streamline a lot of what goes on in the financial reporting department. And because basically the format that goes into the town report is one that's been carried over for many years. And it's not the most streamlined way to do the reports. There's a lot of easier ways. So I think there may have been reasons for doing them the way they were done. And I'm going to put together my recommendations for how I think we should change them. Then you'll have to talk to the auditors and see if they agree. But I will do, that is one of my goals for the end of the month, is hopefully by your next select board meeting, I'm trying my best to get the June 30th, 2021 financial statements into a final unaudited format, so that's really what you need, so that you can look at budgeting options for next year, plus any new items you need to budget for. So that's one of my goals.
Can I put you on the agenda for the 20th, and we'll have a.
I think so. I think you could, and I've suggested to Michael that he'll probably want to sit in on it.
Okay.
So,
Right.
Okay.
All right, very good.
All right, I'm gonna leave you guys.
I
to
just
do
Stan
the
had a
thing.
question for you. I think-
Wait.
Wait.
Samara, as a citizen of the town, never mind the times I've served as select board, I really appreciate, respect you, and thank you for all the work that you've done for the town. I don't think anyone has a full understanding of what your service has been to the town, and I very much want to thank you for everything you've done, your willingness to help us out here at the end of your tenure, and I wish that your family situation goes as smoothly as is possible. And again, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you guys back. I appreciate your dedication as well. All right.
All right.
Well, good
We'll
night,
see you there.
everybody.
Thank you,
Night.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Samara. Night.
Good night.
All right,
I have a question.
Guy, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's, you answered it. I was concerned about the end of the year
Okay.
reports because they're really important for the budget.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't know where they are.
Okay. All right, so next under new business, it says initial discussion of town audit. Well, I think Samara told us that we do have a audit budget line, which we've been building. However, when we do our next budget, what do we think about putting in enough money for a budget audit?
We have it now, you know.
We have a slush account.
We do have an account that has an audit, a small account that they were putting in several $1,000s here and there. It wasn't done every year.
Mhm.
So I think there's like $4,000, maybe $5 in it. I don't have it in front of me though.
Yeah,
Can I just ask a question? Have we
Yes.
discussed this idea of an external audit with the auditors? Do our elected
This is the
auditors think that that is necessary? I
This
guess
is
I
our-
would question whether it's necessary but that would be based on the input from them, I think, more than anything. I understand that we have all had concerns about there not being timely reporting of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are issues that rise to the point of warranting an external audit. But the auditors presumably would have a better view of that, I think.
All right, one of the things I spoke with Samara about, she felt that there hasn't been an audit in over 10 years, and there have been several treasurers. And if we do decide to go forward and hire an accountant for she said a real bookkeeper, which I think everybody here has been doing well with the bookkeeping. There's nothing alarming that needs to be audited. However, she felt that if we were going to move and try to hire someone, they should come in with a clean slate and work from there. This is our initial discussion. To bring it to the town auditors is on my, I'll write it down, yes. Stan?
I think both of your comments are appropriate for the situation. I think it would be courteous and respectful of the town elected auditors to have an opportunity to provide input.
Yeah.
My understanding, having been involved to an extent with the issue of auditing of the town records some time ago when I was last select board member, and talking with audit firms, my understanding is that an exterior audit is far more in-depth than what the town auditors do. And I, from experience, tended to note that the auditing function was among the last that got done in a year. And it was done in a very quick manner to assist the town in getting some kind of statement that is appropriate for an auditing function for the level of the audit that's done by town auditors. Many towns provide for an exterior audit to be done simply at basic intervals. It's every 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And lastly, if you are looking to hire, and it's, I think, probably a very sound process and thought, to hire a firm to come in who is familiar with bookkeeping, it is more than likely going to happen that that firm is going to demand an audit to be done, because they do not want to come in to a situation where they don't know what the standards or statements for the town is, they don't know the accuracy of the balances. And when I had done my research back when, that was a comment that came up. If I'm going to go in, just like you do on a teller in a bank, before that teller takes the cash drawer from another teller, they want it audited by an independent third party before they put their name and such on the line. So I would suggest that we look at the big picture as everyone here has described it, keeping in mind that I think that internal auditors, elected official auditors, do not do the kind of required audit that would be necessary for transferring this to another entity. And secondly, that new entity will probably demand it. You may not even be able to get one to come in and do it unless you do have that done. So that's my input.
Gwen, you have any input?
No.
Bruce? Anybody else?
I guess the only other thing I'd add is, to your point, I mean, I think probably further discussion of this should happen in conjunction with the discussions of Samara's other recommendations of possibly where we want to go directionally as far as the treasury of the town. I mean, I think it's they're kind of all tied together somewhat. So to Stan's point and your point, would probably make sense for us to discuss this along with those other recommendations, whether she sends them to us or whether Dot, from discussions you've had with Samara, you can express some of those things.
Well, I'll certainly add to, between now and the next meeting, getting in touch with our current auditors and asking them maybe to join us or to give us their opinions in writing about an external audit needs, and We'll also have Samara's information to discuss at the next meeting as well, for the unaudited reports that she'll do for us for 2020-21. So it's our first discussion. I think we're gonna have several more. Stan?
One other comment, when I was getting the bids from potential external auditors, 15 would be a minimum.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be unusual to see $18,000 to $22,000 as a exterior audit cost.
Do we know when the last actual audit was?
Yes, it was 11 years ago when the transition from Penny Harrington to Samara Zwick. And I believe that cost the town, I thought it was maybe $12,000 or $14,000.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and again, that was 11 years ago, and we used Sullivan out of, I think Montpelier, who's, a firm that is well versed in doing audits. And we didn't have a forensic audit, we had a general audit, which is, again, a step below forensic. Forensics is a very expensive audit, and as you know, it would probably be maybe $30,000 but I don't think the town actually needs that sort of audit. They just need a general accounting, and that's what these companies do. In the price range of $15,000 to $20,000 for a town of our size, and finances the way we have it.
My understanding is they go back 2 to 3 years to see if they can get a reconcilement with the town records based on their research of detailed hard copy data, in addition to any computer stuff. So the extent of it is significantly greater than local elected auditors.
Oh,
And I must say that in my 9 years as an appraiser, and I go from town to town, it's not unusual. I don't mean to make this sound bad, but on more occasions than I would have thought, there had been issues where money's disappeared, and it was town auditors that had been involved in so-called reconciling the financial statements year after year. I'm not gonna name towns, but it always, I think, is, particularly if we are considering for consistency purposes and depth of knowledge and no snags along the way.
Well, I think it's a healthy thing.
It's a good thing to, exactly, it's a healthy thing to do.
Because it's been a while and mistakes happen, and it's good to start all over again and start with a brand new ledger, and knowing that everything is accounted for. Like I say, there are mistakes made when none of us are perfect. As far as any improprieties, I cannot see that in our town whatsoever.
No,
I mean,
No, I'm not implying that is the case,
Yeah,
but it just,
finding,
yeah,
where the errors are.
if there are.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll bring this up again, and as I said, I will talk to Frank and the auditors, and get their input on this as well. Okay, any other before we move on to new business item D? All right, new business item D, discussion about human resource needs, current and future. Well, we just heard from Samara again that she will, as our assistant, one of our assistant treasurers, is looking forward to retirement. And so we have Samara, and I know Michael Masters had asked us to begin to look for his replacement. He's got a lot going on his plate. We talked about the listers, which we are looking for a couple of people for that, and Stan did some research on that. And I also would like to bring up that as we move into the Fema paperwork, that I am going to ask the town to allow for an appointment of a temporary administrative assistant, which would be 100% FEMA reimbursable for. And so those are the things that we wanted to talk about. Which one would you like to talk about first? Anybody have an idea?
Well,
Can I just clarify something, Dot?
Sure. Yes.
Are you sure that you meant that would be 100% FEMA reimbursable or 100% ARPA reimbursable?
No.
FEMA, for the FEMA storm-related work that we are now going to begin doing, we can get a temporary assistant to help with FEMA. We can also hire a temporary assistant for ARPA work. So that's the other one. The FEMA right now is a little bit more pressing because we have to have that in effect working before the 29th of October if we wanted to claim any money back. So Bruce showed up too yesterday. We went to a meeting, FEMA run meeting in Townsend at the town hall, and learned a lot of information. And that was one of the things I would like to I've already approached Guy Tanza. Guy Tanza has worked through the Irene storm already. I think Guy has all the access to financials that I need to work with. A select board volunteer cannot be paid for any of this work. However, a temporary administrative assistant employee can be hired based upon his current salary of $21.75 an hour. Probably looking at if 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours a week at the most spent on this, I think we can get our ducks in a row and have our FEMA application sent in, loading our documents into the portal, and I bet before Thanksgiving, we could have our money. If it's possible, they're going very quickly because they have Vermont's damage was small compared to what they're doing out down south with the damages that they've had in other states. And so we will get our own Brookline assistant representative from FEMA to work with us. I'm certainly not trying to bogart the work with FEMA. Does anybody else want to do this? Okay, all right. I just want to, because you need 2 people.
Right. I have 2 concerns. We've gone through a scenario where we've done something to the round schoolhouse and people wondered why we didn't advertise, put it out to bid, or advise others that there's a need. And I'm wondering if it might behoove us, and this is no reflection on any opinion that you've expressed, I think I would be the ideal person. However, I do know in the conversation that occurred that day, someone brought up all the hundreds of $1,000s that was brought in from the last flood, Irene, and I hate to offend that individual or anyone else that might have had the similar experience. Put out a 7-day notice, if you're interested, apply. If there is none, I think if it weren't for that one consideration, I'd endorse completely Guy being the person, because he was here, he knows the routine, or he can reflect back on it. Probably can go back to the files and have the data, et cetera.
There's such a time limit.
It's I know that. So I guess the question then becomes, will that comment, is he looking to do this tonight so it can begin tomorrow? Or next week or 2 weeks later?
What I was considering, since I didn't get it on the agenda because the meeting was yesterday, I did a little research. I may ask at the next meeting for you to concur with my appointment. But I don't have to. I mean, I can wait 2 weeks, I suppose, but again, FEMA.
This has to be done before the 29th though?
Yes.
I don't think we can wait. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I mean, it's
We can't
already the
wait.
6th.
The other thing I'll say is that I know that Dot, the way you described this was the town being able to appoint a temporary administrator. I mean, I think from things I've read about situations like this before, I think conceptually, the idea is that we can be reimbursed for town employee time spent doing this process. So I think of this as more being not really a situation where it makes sense for us to be advertising for someone out of the blue to come and help us, but more looking at our town employee resources and which town employee has the time and the skill set to potentially work on this. And Guy
Yeah.
would be logical from that standpoint. Does that make sense, Stan? I just mean, I don't think that this is really a situation where we're putting this out to bid and getting a bunch of different
Well, that understand
options.
the time constraint that I wasn't understanding of is the 29th of this month.
Yes.
Then there is no time. We're in the same situation we were with the Round Schoolhouse. Something has to be done.
Right, and actually, we can have more than 2 people involved, and certainly see if there's anybody who would like to come in and help us to do paperwork. But, you know, if you really feel that way, but I'd like to get moving on this sooner than later. I'd like to next week set aside, talk with Guy, if it's all right, basically, I would need to have you adopt the position as an appointment at a certain rate for a certain, above and beyond the hours that any other employment, job description that he's doing, like above and beyond town clerk time. It has to be separate time that would be just devoted to this, and we could always use, its own employee timesheet for date, hours, description of the work that was done during those hours, and then keeping everything separate as part of Fema. So, again, I'm looking to do it correctly, and I do think I need to have it on the agenda for an appointment, but I may ask for you to concur with me after the fact, that I'd like to appoint Guy sooner rather than later. I don't wanna wait for 2 weeks.
I don't have a problem with that.
And I didn't have
The
time to
date
get
is
it on the agenda.
The date is the critical part, and I
Yeah.
have complete confidence that Guy would do it right. That's not the issue. I just, to sit here after donating the time you do and get criticized for something is a little irritating. It not only is it inappropriate, but I just didn't wanna have to go through that a second time within a 60-day period if I could help it.
Yeah,
I got you,
good
Claire.
point.
Totally, and I totally appreciate that, Stan, and I completely understand where you're coming from with that also. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I guess kind of
Alright,
all
so,
on board to let Guy do it.
I just wanted to be transparent in that, the hourly rate for the temporary employee to temporary administrative assistant would be $21.75 an hour for approximately 4 hours a week for maybe a month or more.
Yes.
We can always address this. I will put it on the agenda for a concurring vote next week, and if you decide at the next meeting that it's not working, then we'll have to do something else. But I wanna get our portal set up, started. I've already received an email from Kim, who gave the presentation yesterday.
Okay,
And now she wants us to get on board because everything is gonna
All right.
start rolling, and
Don,
okay, Bruce?
I understand your concern,
Yeah.
I do. But here we go with the emergency again.
Yeah.
And we're not talking $5,000, we're talking $58,000. I say take the hit. I say, we can't put this on the 20th of October. If someone wants to come in and beat us up at a subsequent meeting, oh, well.
Yeah.
Sorry. The thing about this whole thing and about the last, I'm not gonna drag that into it, about what happened last time and this time, we're transparent. Person's interested in what we do as a select board has every opportunity to check, to follow what we've done. In 3 days, does Fact TV have this up? Okay. So
It's live, it's being live broadcast right now.
And how many years have we been doing it?
I don't know, 7, 8.
End of story. So my point is, we are transparent. If anybody has a bitch, excuse the expression, they're gonna raise it to either the town clerk
Okay.
or the select board chair, and then the select board chair could hold a special meeting to counteract the problem. But in the meantime, I think guys should go forward. That's my thinking.
So is there anything we can do tonight other than the method you suggested? Shall we entertain a motion?
Well, I can't do a motion because it's not on the agenda.
Ah,
I didn't
that's
get it
right.
on the
That's
agenda
right.
because it was yesterday when they
That's right.
explained how to do it.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will write up I know you can't do things outside, but I am going to write up what they recommended for the job description for this, very brief, based upon their template. And we will vote on it in the next meeting, but I'm gonna ask you to concur that we have already started our work. And that is that, so.
It's an emergency situation for an emergency situation.
It's, you have to do it that way.
Right.
So you guys are the hired to represent the rest of the town,
Correct.
they put you in there.
It's for their own benefit.
It's also about $60,000 at the town.
At least that's just the start, because we haven't got all of the money in. All right, so that's what we'll do for this. So that's for FEMA. The ARPA, that's another one. I don't want to tell you what that, but right now, the listers, let's talk briefly about the listers. Stan did some research, watch those videos, and let's see, you reviewed the videos that Helen Holt suggested that potential listers, so you think that those videos would be fine, although you did said there was a couple of sites that required login and password access. So those were also in the videos that were.
I think there were 6 sites that she referenced me to. The first 2 are long 3-hour videos.
Oh.
I did not watch them in length,
Okay,
but I got a feel for where they're going in the introduction.
okay,
And it's basically the philosophy of ownership, the bundle of rights, what easements are about, basic real estate concepts, terminology, so that a lister who's doing the job has a broader understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. Why, this scenario is different than this scenario. And for someone who lives in a larger town, the difference between a condo, a PUD, planned unit development, it's, a PUD is different. They have a better understanding, but that is not critical for them to do the job in the sense that over the years, those decisions have already been made. We have everything in the software set up. We have the categories in which each of those properties belongs. So they can enter this without having an understanding of that and do what was able to be viewed in 3, I think, of the other remaining sites, which specifically had the sheets, the process of doing the year-end reconciliation, the transfer into the new year, how to handle the various aspects of data entry, partial debt separation, where somebody had 20 acres, sold 10 to this person and 10 to that person, or sold 10 and kept 10. All that stuff is described and accurately so they can go in and do the job essentially without having that big broader understanding. There are two other addresses where once you got in, it said put in your ID and then your passcode, which was implying that you already were a lister or a town official that had access to NEMROC. I could not view those. However, the summary comments I would offer is it would be a tremendous way to allow those individuals at their own time frame or time frame to be designated by the town to go in and see what the job would entail before tying up anyone in the office with training,
okay.
which takes away from the fact that we've got what appears to be 2 people, but one person here a lot and the other person's in their own town, it seems to me.
Let me ask you this, if you, later on, if we take a look at this list, it didn't completely print out,
Yeah.
those videos, if you could check off
Sure.
which ones would be best, I can draft a letter to the 3 originally interested people, tell them to watch this, get to come back to us, yes or no, you would like more in-depth training, and so
Would
that would be,
What would be a convenient time frame for me to get it to you? Friday, Monday?
Monday, let's see,
Okay.
Monday.
All right. I will do that.
All right, good. All right, so we talked about temporary assistant, lister. How about the treasurer? What do we do?
What do we do?
Yeah.
Bail.
Is the if we get an accountant, we can't even do that this year because we don't.
I think we really need, honestly, I think we need to have I still don't understand what Samara is suggesting. So personally, until I know what she's suggesting, I'm not really sure how to
Next time.
decide how we might go about doing it. So I think it might be premature to try to figure that out.
Okay, so, what I have her ready for the next meeting, Samara will be on there, so we'll hear from Samara, and we can work forward on that after the, for the treasury position. All right, very good. All right, so if, anything else before we move on to the next item, old business? Okay, let's move on to old business, second, lister. Okay, we tabled the bid from September 15th regarding the generator hookup bid, which included upgrades to exterior lighting around Town Hall building. Larson Electric was the sole bidder, including the permit and equipment for code. We didn't know where the money was going to come from. However, I think the words capital improvement and there is a capital improvement fund that we had developed with a surplus from several years ago. It has not been touched at this time. Is this an account suitable for the setting up the generator? We'll go through, Gwen, we'll go through the.
I think it is. I mean, I think it's something we need. I mean, we've got it sitting in here, you know, if we have no power and being Brookline, you've known that we've gone without power for a week before.
Right, okay. Stan,
I will just echo what Gwen said.
okay, Bruce?
I'm not so sure. I'm under the opinion that we should, we're gonna start our budget pretty shortly. That we see what the year ends look like and see. I'm not against doing it, but I'm against where the money's coming from. I would like to see what we have left over from last year, if we have any surplus at all. And then take that in conjunction with all the other things that we're spending and work that into.
Well, Samara did say that there will be another small surplus from this past budgetary year.
Yeah, but she didn't say how much.
No, she didn't say how much, so you're saying to not to accept not to vote on the bid tonight,
That's my opinion.
okay? David?
I tend to agree with Bruce that I'm not sure that, I don't know that I would really consider this something that the capital improvement concept would cover, though I could be convinced that it is. I guess at the moment, I'd like to see where we are financially in some other respects before we spend this money. And I still have concerns that this is more money than we should be spending for what we've asked from the bidders. But I guess if it's the only bid, you know, I understand we have the generator. I understand it's not hooked up, but the reality is, in an emergency situation, we can use the generator for quite a bit of stuff prior to having this done. So waiting a little bit longer, I think might make sense. In an ideal world, personally, I'd like to wait, and I'd like for us to budget for it specifically for the next fiscal year, but maybe we decide we don't want to wait that long. But I'd at least like to wait and see a little bit more about where we shake out with the end of the year financially.
Okay.
Where are you at, Dad?
Well, I mean, I would rather, you know, move along and, but I understand that, I don't have a problem waiting 2 more weeks. If Samara is gonna come up with some of the answers, but.
We could revisit, not to wait until after the budget's done, we could revisit it after she submits us the financials, because the
Should we
financials.
put this on the November, would you like me to put it on the November 3rd agenda?
Makes sense.
If we keep putting things out, we're never gonna get anything.
We may lose the
accomplished.
bid too, we may no longer have time to do the work, because,
Exactly, yeah,
yeah, but,
In the winter?
you know,
but it was on the bid up.
In the winter?
so.
No, for that.
Let's see, I guess I'm gonna have to go with the table. I understand the discussion, I'm gonna go and make the motion, and I could be overturned. I'm gonna make the motion to accept the bid for the generator hookup from Larson Electric LLC, including the permit and additional equipment and lighting for town hall, and the amount not to exceed $2,074. May I have a second?
I second.
All right, seconded was first by Stan. Additional discussion. You wanna s-
Where's the money gonna come from? We still haven't concluded where it's gonna.
I would take it from the capital improvement fund. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none.
And how much money is in the capital improvement fund right now?
It's about $4,300,
$300.
something like that, 4,300.
Okay.
All right, hearing
Excuse me,
none.
what was the amount again in the motion?
$2,074.
074, thank you.
2074, yes.
I don't have a problem with
All right.
that, with the
Can I
amount.
ask one more
Certainly, we're in
question?
discussion.
And apologies, but did we circulate the complete details of the bid from Larson?
Yes, it was put in the newspaper and, yes.
You sent it to us too.
Okay, sorry, I'm finding it. I'm just looking at specifically what their bid entailed.
The bid entailed at the
So $1,400 for,
panel to use for running the, see, about 10 years ago, it was 1,200 at my house.
and
So
they
14
came, can I just ask,
Yes, sir.
Larson came out and looked at our panel before doing the bid, I assume?
Yes, came and looked at the panel, climbed in the attic, went down into the basement,
Okay,
the lines, looked at the machinery. Took 20-foot cable, the wiring, and then you have your spotlights and such.
okay, yep, okay. Sorry, that was my one other question. I hadn't actually looked at the detail of it until now.
Right. So, all right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting the bid from Larson Electric for the generator and lighting for the amount of $2,074 taken from the capital improvement fund, we'll signify by saying aye. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Gwen Tanza?
Aye.
Aye. Stan Noga?
Aye.
Aye. Bruce Mello?
No.
No. David Jones?
No,
No. Dot Maggio? Yes. The ayes have it 3-2 to proceed with the generator setup from the capital improvement fund. Thank you. I understand that it's a difficult, and we don't usually have we usually have unanimous decisions, but I understand that, but we'll move on with this.
Okay.
Okay, passed. All right, review and discuss job description for the road supervisor. Did anybody else, did you send this to everybody?
I sent it to
Okay.
everybody.
All right, so we have in front of us a copy of a job summary, levels of responsibilities, the duties of the road supervisor, qualifications.
Anybody else need a copy?
No, I read it.
Anybody else?
I just want to watch it, sure. Do you have it, Mark?
I have an extra one.
No, I do not. You do? Brandy,
I need
would you like a copy?
Sure. Stan, give me a copy too, just in case you refer to something. Please.
All right, we'll give everybody a chance at just to take a look at it again. Oh God, I don't know how to run this thing. Short little recess while we get machinery going and.
Very short.
3 copies. 2
Maybe I'll go get Gwen a mouse.
You can keep him.
You might have to look at this while you're waiting. I have already looked at it.
Oh, you need 2 copies, because, alright. Put it right in there and we'll do it again.
There we go. Nice cooking with gas on all four burners.
I gave Mark my copy,
You
so
did,
he'll give me a set, I'll be very, very happy.
Sure, here's your
Oh,
copy.
I got it. Did you go?
Did you want one?
All right, we're waiting, Bruce will be out in a second.
He's gonna go get me a mouse.
For supper?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Thank you, Stan.
Mm-hmm.
Stan, how would you like me to approach this, or would you like to?
I'm totally flexible. If you'd like me to go over it, I'd be
Sure,
happy
you
to.
wanna just go over it?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Dot had done some research on the listserv website for the state where other towns were towns of the state of Vermont advertised for job employees. And this was taken from the town of Stockbridge, Vermont. It was of a slightly different format, slightly more detailed, slightly longer. However, given the size of our town and the fact that there are just some things that our town foreman wouldn't do, road foreman, that it was abbreviated and shortened, and where things were assuming that we owned all the equipment that we would have to do the job, the roads of the town, and knowing that we're probably still gonna continue to lease or rent for a short period of time equipment, I made the changes necessary to take those kinds of considerations into account. I obviously, being human, there were probably things I should have changed or included or excluded, but given the time of 2 to 3 hours that I was able to go through this, do it initially, then go back and review it, I reduced it down to this size, and it has some basic components. The initial paragraph is the job summary, and then the levels of responsibility is indicated and to who they're responsible to. For responsibility, I referenced not only the road commissioner but also the select board, thinking that Mark really has to interact with both those roles or entities, and to not include both of them would have been remiss. It gets into things in terms of major duties is, maintenance tasks in a safe, compliant, and efficient manner. Be aware of and compliant with OSHA regulations. I know that in a small town that's difficult. However, for insurance purposes, in the event of an accident or something, it probably would be very helpful in acquiring the necessary coverage and or benefits to have that included, and that we be aware of it to an extent possible. knowing that Mark also, we might have hired out certain things that we simply cannot do, given the staffing and equipment lacking. That he would be interacting with the entities that are hired, and monitoring, those jobs. For example, perform and monitor department operations, respond to problems on an as-needed basis, including complaints by the public, relate to town citizens in a professional, courteous, and respectful manner, and ensure how to handle a complaint, communicate with the select board and or road commissioner, basic things such as that. Perform administrative requirements, including but not limited to timesheet, work logs, vehicle logs, etc. What the extent of each of those would be, I suspect would be something to be determined by discussion amongst us, the road commissioner and the road foreman. So that the monitoring, the reporting, et cetera, doesn't become a major component of the time spent. But on the other hand, if we have an emergency, and I don't know what kind of documentation is provided or required by FEMA and or the state for road washouts, et cetera, if it involves logging hours, that logbook is available for use for that purpose. I know that one other job description that Doc cued me into was very, very vague, didn't have any of this in it. And I felt that, what would I as a select board member want to see in providing Mark with some guidance as to what the town's expectations and the select board and road commissioner's expectations of him were, and what we would be in doing our job in support of he and Archie to make sure that we come together in a manner that's most productive and helpful for the citizens of the town. That's essentially where this came from, and the things that I left in it. I'm trying to figure out what else here would be helpful for you to know. Again, feel free to go along and read it as you feel and ask any questions when you have. He would be a part of any new plans or cost estimates or specifications for highway projects. He kind of already does that, and I didn't think that was an expansion, but rather part of what he already does. Let's see, he has it seems to me that he has a working knowledge of federal, state, local statutes or regulations regarding department operations, and simply how when you go about doing the road work that's done, and in compliance with the so-called Orange Book of the Department of Transportation. Included, again, Mark may not always be the person that's doing our roads. Life has unexpected turns and twists. So I did not mean to offend Mark in any manner, shape, or form, but I included and left in the maintaining a drug and alcohol-free workplace in compliance with Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988 and the Omnibus Transportation Employees Testing Act of 1991. And then giving flexibility to the board and Mark and his direct supervisor, which I guess would be the commissioner, perform any such other work as deemed necessary by the select board. Maintain roads of Vermont Agency of Transportation standards. And the qualifications, there's nothing in that category that would prevent someone that's deemed by the town, and in this case, Mark has a lot of, Mark is well versed in all of this, but it's pretty simply putting it in writing. And then the term of employment is pretty, indicates he's hired by the select board. Terms of employment, compensation, and benefits are set by the select board. And we've kind of already had a discussion when Mark was recently retained by the town to outline what some of those benefits and expectations are on both our parts, and indicating that there's an evaluation process, and that can be done at however we wish to set it, annually or as time permits, essentially, or however you wish to do it. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility. On the other hand, having been a supervisor for 16, 17 years in an industry where it was unfortunate to have the situation of someone being incapable of doing the job or not doing it in a manner that's appropriate, I felt that having formal training in the sense of what items should be included in a job description, how it places the relationship of the employer in a position of being able to delineate shortcomings and or significant errors that would bring about a termination. It provides a structure and a format to allow that to happen. Not that anyone's gunning for anybody, but it prevents an arbitrariness to it, or issues of personality that may enter into something over time, that we're all maybe not here in the future to interface and perform this role. So my sense is that it's a good starting point for providing structure for all parties involved and a support structure from both sides of the issue in terms of the ability to communicate, the ability to explain. There are no specific timeframes, but suggested timeframes, annual review, it may or may not happen. I don't know if Mark even gets an annual review currently.
Something that we need to discuss at another time, but I know short-term and long-term employees should have some kinds of review. New
They
people
should.
should be 6 months, and
Yeah.
then long-term employees 12 months.
Right.
I had written that down before you even brought that up.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I like the fact that it takes a lot of vagueness out of the job description. Because in the state of Vermont, there have been some issues where vagueness was a poor choice of words, and I think you're in the right direction, you know, I don't know without reading the whole thing, but the vagueness is definitely an important thing, because in the event there was something that the town had to address, if it isn't in writing or something like that, the town would not have anything to say.
I think as an extreme, if the town felt that, it was not able to feel secure or didn't know how to formulate an opinion about it, I don't know if the town has an attorney employed who might have a specialty in personnel or human resources, but, get their opinion on it possibly. I frankly don't think that's necessary,
Right, I don't.
but.
BLTC could do it too.
Yes.
Exactly, that's a good point, I guess that's where I'm kind of going in with that.
All right.
So it's for your description, for your reading, your benefit. I'm not saying it's the solution to everything, but I think it's a darn good start.
I would like to have the option of putting it on the next agenda for a vote. I would like to pass it by to BLTC if it's okay. I think it's well written and I think it's very appropriate, but I just wanted to get a secondary opinion. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really great. And thanks, Stan, for going through this. I mean, I will say, reading through it, I have a lot of minor changes that I think we should make to it. So I personally think we should figure out a structure for doing that before we send anything to VLCT.
You want to work on it now?
But there are a couple things that I think we might need to discuss, but generally speaking, I think it's really good. And I think and to everyone else's point, I think it's a good idea to eliminate as much vagueness and lack of clarity as we can. So I think it's excellent.
I'm not sure when you said that you have some suggestions as far as editing in what.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, I think throughout it, we should refer to the position as the road supervisor, not the road foreman, because that's what our actual position has historically been, unless we're going to change the name of it. So there's a lot of references to foreman that I think should be replaced with supervisor. Select board should be one word throughout. There are some things, I mean, I could go through it if we want to go through line by line, or we can, I don't know how you want to proceed.
The next meeting.
Bring it up and maybe have him.
Can you send an edited form to us
Or to Dot so she can send it.
Sure, yeah.
send it-
What I'll do is you have Microsoft Word Dot as well, do you?
I have Microsoft Word, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I've turned on track changes to the version that Stan sent around, and I've made my changes, so you'll be able to see what I changed and what I will say that there are a few things that, and we can discuss these, that there are a few things that I guess I do wonder, like where we say level of responsibility, the road supervisor works under the broad supervision of the select board and reports directly to the road commissioner. I don't know that that's actually accurate or how we want this to be specified. I mean, I think it's more in consultation with the road commissioner or something possibly, but you know what I mean? There are a few things that I think we might want to discuss how we tweak, but
Sounds good.
Okay, that's very, I like
but
it.
it's great, Stan. Thank you for doing this.
Well, I appreciate your
So I think that's the best.
comments. It's things I wasn't sure what the structure was, but here's the time to learn.
So I think that's the best step, is to have him go through some of his,
Yeah.
rather than try and discuss it all now, it
No.
would take
Yes.
forever.
Okay,
And then,
all right, David,
Put it
you'll
for
do
next.
that, and we can bring this up in the next meeting and then finalize it then? Bruce,
Sure.
you wanna say something?
That sounds
I
good.
like, well, I think it's a great idea. This is good from what I've read it before. And it's good that we're not voting on tonight. Of course, we can't because it was set up for a vote. But I was also encourage Mark to read through it and hear Mark's input too. So that, because he's the man that's immediately that's gonna affect.
and.
So I'd like to hear what his opinion is when we're done doing this.
Sure, yeah.
All right,
I
very,
apologize to Mark in getting it done later than I had hoped to. And so I would very much value your input as well.
Okay,
Maybe structure is the suggestion made as far as
yes, at first glance, it does look very reasonable.
all right, we're gonna move along then, and I'll put that on the next agenda item. All right, discussion and vote changing the name of the Brookline Historical Society to the Round Schoolhouse Committee. We've discussed this with the fact that the naming of the committee as being Round Schoolhouse will show that it is not encompassing the Brookline Meeting House or the Historic Baptist Church, however you wanted to address it as, so that it would be identified as such and could have people who are interested be appointed to that committee. So I'm gonna make a motion that we change the name of the Brookline Historical Society to the Round Schoolhouse Committee. May I have a second?
We have it.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? I wanted to put a blurb out with Julie's listserv about this to get, but Julie is having a problem with her listserv computer getting messages out. So, if that does not bother people, I will then go to a vote unless you wanted to put this on another agenda, if you still wanted me to reach out to the community. Just the changing of the name.
I don't have a problem with dealing with the issue tonight and finalizing.
Any other discussion then?
Yeah, and can I just ask, and you had no negative feedback from anybody on either of the committees to doing this, right? I mean,
No.
yeah, so that
I
seems
talked
fine
with
to me.
Cynthia, she says Cynthia now, would like to be, on it as an interim, what's it
Ex
called?
officio. or-
Ex officio for this committee, and she has sat with me for the past 2 open houses there. She said, they change names all the time, as long as what we do is the same, it's the same building, so.
Sure.
Hearing that, let's continue on with the vote. All those in favor of changing the name of the Brookline Historical Society to the Round Schoolhouse Committee signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion has passed. We now have the Round Schoolhouse Committee. I will send that, we'll check with Julie again to see if she's, look for more people to be interested in it. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the report of the town clerk at this time.
The town has been extremely busy with a lot of conveyances. And we've had a couple of marriages and a couple of, unfortunately, some funerals. But we've been very busy, and the real estate market seems to still be hot in Brookline. But we've had a few people respond to the message that was sent out on the listserv in regards to their dogs not being licensed properly. That's still working. And other than that, things are good. Our delinquent taxes are below $2,000. We have 3 delinquents right now, and I'm working with them, and hopefully we'll come to some sort of agreement and get those cleared up as soon as possible. But we're pretty fortunate when I look around what's going on. So the people in Brookline again have, know what their responsibility is, and I thank them for making my job a little easier. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, select board report, just a few things. I attended the rescue meeting in Brattleboro on September 16th. What came out of that meeting is that they are going to ask for the same amount for the town of Brookline as they have in the past. And I took a picture of the bill, but I couldn't print it out. They'll be sent, I think it's something like $15,000 for rescuing for the town of Brookline. There's not gonna be a fee increase, although they are gonna look for a 3-year contract. The first year, no increase. There may be a slight increase on the second and third year of the contract, but it has not been sent to us as of yet. But that was what the meeting was about. I also took the webinar on the 14th, 15th, and 16th on virtual emergency preparedness. Very interesting. I think one of the things we'll do in my remaining 18 months or whatever is probably have not necessarily a drill, but a meeting of people who should be on board when we do have emergencies. We probably didn't call I probably could have handled these flooding emergencies better in calling the select board together and then reviewing over contractors that we could have called in to help in the first few days. So those are things that I learned. On September 28th, I attended a webinar with Wyndham Investing in Vermont's Future, which was a Zoom. It was interesting. There was about 56 of us online, and we talked about things such as housing and childcare, ARPA, mental health, healthcare, retention of qualified staffing, appropriate pay rates for people, income disparities, high income tax rate in town, and so on and so forth. So again, it was something interesting for me to hear, since I've only been in Brookline now full-time, less than 10 years. On October 5th, Brookline, we had a mandatory Fema applicant briefing at Townsend Town Hall. Bruce Mello and I both went to that. It was a couple of hours long. We do have to work on the declared September 29th emergency. FEMA emergency number 4621 will identify this incident as incident 4621 going forward. And we will have some assistance from FEMA in getting our paperwork together. And so I did mention earlier about having the temporary assistant, administrative assistant to work on the paperwork and gathering it. And I think we could probably get our paperwork done, as I said, before Thanksgiving. We should be all finished. Let's see, October 2nd. Okay, on Saturday, October 2nd, I met with resident David Shupp. He owns what he calls Camp Granby on Ellenware Road, which is up behind West River Inn. And initially he wanted to convey an easement to the town of Brookline. However, after talking with Guy Tanza, and I had Guy talk to Mr. Shupp, we suggested, and he agreed, that he's going to contact his attorney. And as he develops the deed to pass that land to his children, he will have the restrictions about non-development of that area in his deed, so that there's nothing that we need to do, and that was the best way of handling it. But I was able to reach out to our town planning committee, and they were going to address it tomorrow night, but I told him there's no need to, David's gonna handle it through his lawyer with the advice that Guy gave him, since Guy knows how deeds can be very restrictive in how they're written. I know in my deed, I have a sugar bush in my backyard that the Bush family can access, but they moved a long time ago, but it's still in my deed. So, those are restrictions that Mr. Shuck can do for his property, although it's a pretty cool camp up there, I love it. All right, October 4th, the open house at the Brookline Meeting House and the Round Schoolhouse, while not as well attended as the September meeting, open house, the weather wasn't as good this weekend. It was still one in which a lot of people came. They did celebrate the National Historic Registry for the Old Baptist Church. They rang the bell at noon, and we could actually hear it up here at the Round Schoolhouse. So it was really cool to hear that. And the Facebook page has a audio recording and a video of that happening as well. So that is the last open house that we're having for the historic buildings in town, but we are working on some fundraising ideas for going forward in November and then next year. Okay, also on October 4th, I met with Doug Johnstone of the Agricultural Management Specialist for the state of Vermont regarding a pesticide drift complaint from a resident. After I met with Mr. Johnstone, I went over and we talked with the resident, and then Mr. Johnstone gave me some paperwork to help the resident fill out with this complaint, and then Mr. Johnstone went and spoke with the farmer who was doing the pesticides to check to see about the way in which everything was being handled. I have offered to act as a middle person for a resident and farmer if they need to discuss anything. There was some discussion that the previous complaint in another year that a tree line was supposed to be planted to act as a buffer from pesticide spraying on the crops. That hasn't been done, so maybe that will make things a little bit easier for the resident. All right,
Are there any ramifications adversely for the town government?
No, I am wearing my town health officer hat. I will file a town health office report, and I also will keep a copy of the complaint from the resident. And I think we're gonna work on that on Friday. He just asked me to help put it together a little bit, and my handwriting isn't the best, but it's better than his. Okay, on the 27th, I spoke with Justin Lee regarding the Wi-Fi hotspot for town hall. If you remember, we did approve installing it here in town, and they were going to come on a Tuesday to install it, but it was the Tuesday before the Wednesday that we actually voted to approve it. So we told they couldn't install it. When I wrote to the Justin Lee about the board approval, he said he had forgotten. And so they moved on to Maine, and they are in other states, but he said when they come back into this area, he will contact us about that. And I said, fine. All right, on November 16th, there's a meeting of what's now going to be called the Regional Emergency Management Committee, REMC. REMC. In 2021, the Vermont legislature enacted a law requiring the creation of this committee to coordinate and support all regional hazard emergency planning and preparedness activities to improve each region's ability to prepare for and respond and recover from disasters. I will be putting on the next agenda an item. We need to have a second voting member for the town of Brookline due to them by October 27th. Our next meeting is October 20th. So I sent you all a copy of the email that's dated September 29th. I ask you to please read through it, and I'll ask somebody to step up and be the second person. Yes, sir.
It seems to indicate that the
Second bottle of water.
the person needs to be a member of the local emergency response group, like Newburgh Fire Department. Does that mean that we're limited?
We're all
in
members of it. You, and you.
Oh, is that
me,
right?
And you, we're all members of it. That's our LEOP.
Okay.
We are all members on that marching bar, everybody that we put on that list.
Yeah, for the gin.
This is the bottom, that's what I can swallow.
Gin is flavored?
Yeah. So that's why, so read
Okay.
through this again, and if you have a chance, also take a look at our emergency plan that you are listed, we are all on that list. But it will, again, October 27th, I have to send in the second name, I will be one of them.
So is that an offset of the region of the plan that we have already?
Yes, they had modified it, and yes. And it's Wyndham Regional is helping to Wyndham Regional is coordinating this.
Right.
So it says they asked us to reply by email before October 27th with my municipality's second appointee's name and phone number. Second appointee can optionally designate the EMD to be their permanent proxy at meetings, but they want a second. So just letting you know about that. And, okay, winter salt bid is next. I don't think we did one, right? No. So we got an email, it was one Todd Raleigh or whatever, somebody, it was somebody else by the name of Raleigh, one of the emails I get from the AOT was that there may be a shortage in salt again. So we haven't gotten anything, how do we go about the salt bid?
Normally they send us a letter,
Right? A
Yeah.
couple of companies usually send us a letter, there was like.
but last year we used American for the first time
Yeah.
versus Cargill. So maybe we're not on the mailing list, because I haven't seen anything, nothing's come across in the mailbox in the town.
There have been
Yeah.
things, and you've probably seen this too, Dot. I mean, because I get a bunch of road related emails.
Right.
Nobody's been getting statewide. There seems to be a problem, and it may not just be in our state, that none of the salt suppliers seem to be reaching out to communities with offers of salt. And I've seen a few of people who claim they've reached out to American and Cargill and have gotten no response from them. I think we should try to contact American. Mark, I don't know if you have a contact there still, or Guy, I think you might have called them. Somebody should try to call them to just see if that's even going to be an option to get salt from them.
Is there some sort of issue that we don't know about?
There
or-
seems to, well, the suspicion is that there's a shortage.
They're all on the
But-
ships that are coming to port.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've seen that on the
yes.
news.
All the
God.
stuff is on the boats.
Well, life is on the boats.
Oh, shit.
It doesn't
Right,
matter.
although people like, presumably people like, American mines their salt here. So that should, but there are transportation problems and all kinds of other problems that could factor into it. But, so yeah, I guess we need to, hopefully American has some answer, but if not, I don't.
Yeah, I'll make that call tomorrow to check on American, see where we're at,
All right, then call me,
okay?
or, this weekend or sometime.
Yes.
So, all right, so Mark's gonna make call butts this end, and thank you very much, but it was like, oh, yeah, we have.
How much salt do we have now on hand?
We've got like a 10-wheeler load,
Would that get us through November?
yes, it should, unless we have.
Unless it's one big salt crystal.
Yeah, no, it does, pack together, but it loosens upon removal.
Moving it or
Yeah.
grind it up again.
Yeah.
Do his hit with that.
All right, yeah, we'll get on that, I don't wanna be caught shortchanged in that.
Just out of curiosity, did that come out of Bellows Falls?
No, that was Cargill,
Alright, so that one comes out of York Street?
yes.
Okay, so, continuing on October 7th tomorrow, the planning committee is going to be meeting, and anybody is welcome to go to that if there's somebody who wants to represent the select board. I know Tom Kavat is looking to step back on some of his responsibilities, and it's the first meeting for, Daniel, who was just appointed by us. I also made note to the planning committee that I noticed that the New Thing Planning Committee is reaching out to get information and suggestions from the communities for their ARPA, the uses of some of the ARPA money. And I was hoping that our planning committee will start to do the same. I just haven't been able to read everything that New Thing was doing, but it seems like they've been pretty active. Their planning committee has been pretty active with ARPA, the Rescue Plan Act. So just FYI. October 19th, there's using town ARPA funding in conjunction with the webinar. Is that the one that you said you were gonna, no, you were gonna do something tomorrow?
Well, I am gonna do the one on the 19th.
The 19th, okay,
I believe I've already signed up for that.
okay,
The one I'm doing tomorrow was the one you went to on Tuesday of this week.
okay.
And my question would be, do you think it would even be necessary or helpful for a third party to participate in that scenario? Because I feel I'd like to be supportive, but on the other hand, if you felt you got a good handle on it in terms of
I could
what you
always use
learned.
another, Stan, I think that if you had the chance as a webinar to put it on while you're doing something else.
it's one in person in Manchester.
Oh, it's the one in person?
Yeah.
Oh.
The rec center.
Okay, Grace, you were there.
I mean, honestly, I thought they're pretty repetitive. Patty and I pretty much agree with that.
You know,
I thought that there were certain basic tenets to the whole thing. And I just think that they kept repeating, going back and saying the same thing over and over.
Was it a PowerPoint presentation?
I'm just
A
gonna
little
say, when they send me the PowerPoint copy, I'll send it to you and I can sit with you if you want. And we can go over any questions you have, 'cause I took some.
You can save 2 hours driving.
Yeah, save yourself the driving if
Thank
you
you.
wanted to, and I,
Appreciate that.
and once I get the PowerPoint, I'll share it with everybody.
Not that you would enjoy it, but like I said, there's a lot of repetition.
All right. Appreciate that comment.
Yep. All right, last but not least, again, there were 2 dogs that I turned into, and then Humane Society, the owners are paying for each dog, and we're waiting on those people to register their dogs, so I'm making a follow-up on them because they weren't on our original list. But that's all I have. Okay, I know we're running late. All right, we've got 2 minutes.
Lots of luck.
5.
We'll give you 5.
Lots of
All
luck
right.
again.
Okay,
You're on the clock.
All right, building commission report, Bruce.
Go.
Okay,
Is that it? You're done?
I'm just warming up.
You're being
Before-
kind.
Before I start, I just want to say that we have a very good chance of actually concluding these buildings before the end of the year with a very minimal amount of effort. What I'm saying is, with respect to the school, which is basically done, except for I'm gonna ask Mark and I to do some maintenance, and I'm not going in blow by blow what we're gonna do, but I do wanna say this, that there's been an issue with them running out of water on and off for the last week, which I believe I've corrected, and I'll get into that in a second, why that is so important. And I switched the UV system yesterday. Yes. And it went out beautiful. And the other one is sitting there draining, waiting for the next 6 months. So we're saying, and we have two sets of lights and no clear bulbs, which are $70 a piece, which we really don't have to worry about right now because I have a spare at this point. I have a full spare plus the 2 bulbs, the bulbs that actually do the UV sitting in a box in the building. Okay. Saying that, my understanding of that about the water. So the water was having issues, and I knew what it was. And this is where we get into a little bit of an example here. It's show and tell time. Why am I going through this? Because I feel that all the problems that we have had with the plumbing, the toilets,
Camera behind you.
the toilets, the zone valves, which were replaced, and any of the fouling that we've had happen in the last several years was due to the hard water.
The camera's behind you.
I will, what am I doing? Am I doing okay, bud?
Yeah, you're
Look
fine.
at me, look at me.
All right, just do what you have to do.
Okay, so What I did was, we initially, you already know that we had changed to the water, put the water softener system in at the end of March. Before that point in time, just to refresh your memory, we put an initial filter that I bought, that you saw when I brought you in here.
Yep.
Which is a very expensive $85 water filter that's supposed to be good for 20,000 gallons. That was under advisement by the company that makes a UV system, so we went along with it. Then I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to have a backup filter. So I did that, I researched that, and that's this guy right here. Well, the first one is still in place because it's supposedly 20,000 gallons. And when Tina I had reports going back when, that Tina was going through about 1,000 gallons a month. It doesn't take rocket science to figure we should get 20 months out of it. So I put the supposedly better than 5 micron filter that we were using before in there. Okay. Forget that for a second. The first filter had a second filter that Line Well gave me. That wasn't a 5 micron filter. It was called a 25/1 filter. So it filters better than the 5 micron. They advised me to do that, even though I had the 20,000 gallon one in there. The 20 so I have both. Last week, everything started to change. But it's been 6 months. Why am I saying this? Because this is about what a filter would look after 4 to 6 months, 4 to 6 weeks in a normal situation before we have the water system put in. So what did I do? I took the 25/1 one out, feeling it's done its job. 6 months. Put this guy in. It wasn't working. I tried. They kept running out of water. So then I put one of these in, like this, clear, because we had 2 left, 2 old 5 micron ones left. I put it in the other day, 2 days ago, and I'm monitoring it daily to see if that's gonna stop the problem of water running out. Because as soon as I run out of water, I go over, put on the bypass, and they're fine until I straighten it out. This is more like a trial and error to find out where I'm at with this filtration. Going back to the original, this is all so important because if I get this correct, and I think I have a handle on it, we should, going forward, eliminate all our plumbing problems, I believe.
Hallelujah.
Okay, so that's it for that.
So the bottom line is that the size of the contaminants going through that is A, plugging it, and B, the smaller size is not allowing enough water through because of it being plugged by the smaller particles?
Oh, no, I think because of age, 6 months is a long time for that 25/1 to let. I'm ecstatic. That's a $35 filter. This is a $35 filter, and it was lasting a month to 6 weeks.
I see.
So, Gary Line advised it from Line Well, and I did a lot of research and thinking about it, and did the 2 filters before they came in with a water filtration system, this water softener system. I really didn't want to spend the money, but it appears as though he was right. He was right from a number of different respects. You're getting rid of the hard water, you're eliminating the issue with the UV system, hopefully, we've had 2 zone valves go in the last 3 or 4 years. Hopefully, that was the cause, the hard water, and the other issues, the toilets we replaced. So I'm hoping that this put an end to it.
Okay,
That's it for that. Now, let me go back to my notes. So much for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay.
6
No,
minutes
you've
are-
been 5 minutes, so you're okay.
Okay, somebody redo that. So just to reiterate, Mark and I are gonna do some maintenance and do the things that we need to do. I've been having a really bad problem getting somebody to service the boilers. I've been on the phone with several companies, including Nido, and they want everything, including what you do for your sex life, in order to be able to get an approval to get them to deliver gas, but to not to be funny, which I am.
You're being.
A major company will not service those boilers unless you switch to gas. So today I was in pretty strong conversation with Jason from Jamaica Coda about the whole thing. And this was after I finally got a freaking answer out of Stephanie from them as to how I didn't I'm good. Stepping on her tight. She was great. She got me the consumption for the last 12 months, 6,778.8 gallons for the last year,
The entire town or just the week?
just for them. And they pay $3.25 a gallon based on that consumption. So it didn't take rocket science to figure out that I felt they were getting a really crappy deal from AmeriGas. It turns out that if I can get them to switch over to Coda and Coda, not only will we get somebody just to service the boilers on an immediate or yearly basis, if we have a problem or not, but I could have saved, it looks like I might have saved the $3,000.
Wow, good deal.
And that's just based on today's price, which could fluctuate, based on what she's paying now and what she would get. And they said that if she had been with them in the spring, she could have one of those prepayable plans and saved, that price could have been back down. I think he said $1.97. It was either $1.79 or $1.97 down. She would have saved a phenomenal amount of money because based on the $3.25 a gallon, she paid $16,000 last year for propane. Okay, that's enough of that. The handicap we talked about. If you want to do handicap at the school, we have an agreement, I have an agreement with the school that just as you're facing the old building where the entranceway is, where the little part where they did the gardening there, just before you walk up front, right there, and they're totally in agreement with that.
Can I tell them my recommendation for the handicapped here?
Huh?
Can I suggest a recommendation for where to put the handicap slot here in town?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You want to say that? Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
But I get time
We
a
have
lot.
to do this for our insurance. Yeah.
Because of the plowing, that the snow gets plowed off this way. It would be difficult to put a handicap parking space here, which would be right next to the ramp. However, guys, you know where you normally park? Here. Perpendicular to where he parks out here. If we put the sign in the dirt that's right here, like where Guy parks, here's the signboard that has the notices on it. If we put the handicap sign here and put the tape out here, 9 times out of 10 days, meetings, there are no handicap people trying to be parking there, but we would be within the law to provide that. And there is it's a short move from this parking space to the ramp.
Can
to
they,
get into
can
this
they
room.
get around that to park that way?
Yeah, you just park,
Nice.
they would just, for as many cars as you know that come in that are handicapped, they certainly could come in and park right here.
So where do you want it? By the door?
Not by the door, I can show you at the end of the meeting
Okay,
outside.
yep.
All right, but it's not
I'm
gonna be snow,
ready
but
to-
I don't think back here is gonna work because of the snow plow and the sign, it's just not gonna.
Well, not only that, but the snow comes off the roof.
Yes,
Ooh, ouch.
so, all right, we'll take a look at that later on, go ahead, I'm sorry to
That's all
hijack
right,
you.
that's fine, that kind of leads into what I'm gonna talk about anyway, which is the town office. And I did call Scott back, I called his cell phone and I called his office yesterday and I haven't gotten a response. Figuring I'd give him another day and we'll count on that it's able to, but I won't get into that. He owes us another visit, I'm gonna see if I can get him to come down and comply with that request, that agreement, excuse me.
This is a Beta.
Huh?
What's the name of the
No,
company?
no, this is,
Oh.
it's a fellow who's a selectman up in.
All right,
Yes.
when you were saying
Yes,
Scott, I'm
he
thinking
is.
Bolvac, and I'm not,
Oh,
I'm thinking.
I
of-
apologize.
Yeah,
I should
that's.
I should have definitely been clear. And I also would like him to take a look at the remains in underneath the steeple to see what it would take to just clean that little section up after it's a different issue. After we seal the steeple, because Carrie's been getting louvers and whatever, I don't wanna get all.
Yeah, no,
I can't.
you're
I'm not-
out of.
But it's a part of the
Inside
building,
track.
no, I'm not, it's part of the buildings. Anyway, the town office. So if he doesn't come down, I would suggest you and I finish sealing the bill if you don't have a problem with that. That's only, and I was gonna ask, and I hope everybody's on board, with this, asked, Mark and I have already talked about considering painting the Fabrel that's worn off. I had the same identical brown Fabrel on my roof in 1987. I repainted with direct metal Benjamin Moore paint 2 years ago, and it came out great. And it would dress up the
You mean
building.
on this building?
I'm talking about that building of the town office, not the new addition one,
Okay.
which is worn off. And part of that is also, we have noticed that the flashing around the chimney has had some corrosion because you have a case of horizontally opposing metals that causes that corrosion. I addressed that on my house too, so we could do that. Now, as far as cost, couple gallons of paint and Mark's time. I have all the equipment, I have all the extension cords, the roller, well, I don't know about rollers, but I even devised a system where you put the 12-inch roller down to fit in between I told you this, the roof, and then you do the ridges, and it comes out, it takes maybe an hour aside, it's very simple. So the cost wise, maybe a gallon, maybe 2 gallons of paint, that's it, and Mark's time.
I think that's a good idea.
And get Mark to hang the gutter, if you would.
Yeah.
And I'm also gonna work out sealing that hole in the bulkhead and more paint. I don't know the name of it, and I have it written at home, so Mommy painted the bulkhead in the school. So we put a couple of coats of that on. One of the reasons why I asked him to, when he submitted the bill to us to be paid for, to give me the exact stuff that he used on that building. He also gave us some of the, gave us some of the stain which is in the bill. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's it for that. Now, last but not least, show and tell continues. This, I'll refresh your memory, is what our round schoolhouse looks like on the inside.
Oh, okay, it's a hole in the.
Do you want, can you see that? Peter, you probably already know what it looks like. Not Peter, David.
It's,
Let me see.
yeah, go up to the camera.
Watch that water.
It's where the chimney pipe would have gone through
Okay,
the wall.
yep, I can see it.
You can see the laugh.
Well, it's been eating at me. No, not me. And I was thinking, what can we do about it? And you can't get that wallpaper, so what are we gonna do with it? So I came up with an idea. I don't know if it's something that's amenable to everybody else. We put some kind of nice painting or something over it, just to cover it, unless somebody else has a better idea. So when I went, just put painting over it. So when I went to the Cape, to get this in my head, because I was compiling all this list in my the Cape. There's a lady on the Cape, her name is Michelle Munsey, she's been there for years, and she makes these prints. I'm not suggesting this print.
I'm gonna suggest something right now.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is not what I'm
Mhm,
saying we should do, not this painting.
mhm, canvas though.
Just a minute. What I'm suggesting is an idea. She has dozens of them. Excuse me. Oh, damn it. I'm sorry. I gotta minimize it. I was suggesting more of something like this.
Question.
Yeah, we don't wanna do
It's gone.
sand dunes or anything.
No.
It's gone.
Oh, damn it. I'm
While
sorry.
you're showing that, I am gonna say, they have numbered prints of the round schoolhouse that can be framed and hung up.
Okay.
And that's
Well, I'm
what
just
I
go-
think. I think it should be something that
Yeah.
does something with the building itself.
Mhm.
I just figured that this idea is.
But that's a great idea.
It's cropped
But
out
it's
of my
the same-
head.
To cover it up that way, it makes me feel better, because we're not doing plastering, we're not going to change
Right,
the construction of the historic building. But there are, like I said, when Cynthia came to the open house, there is a box full of framed documents. You saw one with your signature on it, it was the
Yeah.
Mickey Marsh
Yep, many,
comment that
yep.
So that to me would be more appropriate is
Okay.
putting something up that's actually from the round schoolhouse.
So
I
it's
just
a
wanna
great
get rid of
idea.
that.
But the whole hide the hole trick, I think, is a great idea.
What's that?
Hide the hole trick, I think, is a great idea.
I agree.
What are you gonna, you can't get the wallpaper,
Yeah,
No.
what are you gonna do, put a white patch in?
yeah.
Not that good. Anyhow,
No, that's a great,
anyhow, we're getting there. Now, the Round Schoolhouse. As you know, I'm almost done,
Okay, 17 minutes, go ahead.
I was cut off.
I
The list that Stan came up with was excellent, and I thought that we should consider having a work bee, and it's not a big deal. Maybe the 23rd with a rain date of the 30th, or 30th and the 6th, to do the following. And it's basically following your list, like stuff that hasn't been done, and I'll go through it really quickly. Painting the metal hoop with a rust with a neutralizer, moving and leveling stone steps to the toilet, replacing women's and men's toilet doors, that's a problem, I got my finger there. Replacing missing front toilet wall board, replacing missing ceiling board in men's toilet, fix the boards in the north gable end, remove all staples in front of the shed siding, remove stain and stones in both toilets, replace trim wood and glass windows, that's a little bit of work. Interior wall hole where stovepipe was, yes, replace brick above the entry door. And replace all 3 doors of boards of the front toilet exterior door. And I went up and redo the front of the Round Schoolhouse vegetation in the spring. And I've already talked to Aaron Zargo, something I could do with my tiller, which I rebuilt. But I could do that, but I would like to see somebody else contribute their time and put their own personal input into it.
I think if you're gonna have a work fee, you would advertise it and get other people who might be interested in coming and helping too. Because
Okay, but
community involvement is important for grant work.
Okay,
Identifying
but
it.
there isn't that much to do, it may seem like it's, the only issues are the doors, is making the doors, making the frames for the windows, which I can do. And Mark has offered a bunch of barboard, you think you have a bunch of barboard?
I already brought a bunch home to my house and I can get more, but I have plenty of wood for everything.
And I'll confess, I'm not the greatest carpenter in the world, so if anyone wants to look at those doors and figure out a way how to fix those things, have at it. But everything else, we can clean the place up a little bit more, there's some steel that's still sitting behind the building. I think it was next to the toilets, maybe weed whack around it and do these few things, and I don't profess to see this would take a long amount of time at all. And any wood that I could donate, which you all may not be familiar with, Mr. Bills over there took some of my lumber years ago, some of my logs, and took them to his mill and brought them back, and I had them cut up oak and maple and took to a kiln in Westmoreland, and they've been stuck up ever since behind my shed, and I have a ton of it. So any wood that we would need for framing a window, we have 2. I would be happy to cut that out. I have a planer, and cut out to fit. And I would recommend that we don't use regular windows, that we use fixed glass. There's no reason to have a regular window, pay $150 a pop, with fixed glass would cost a lot less. So if you all are into that, I think that we can have the town office done, the Round Schoolhouse pretty much done, and the school done, which is done. A couple little things, but nothing like what we faced. And then next year, we turn our attention to the big boy, the church.
Okay. All right, well, I think doing the work bee, or, getting some people together, but I would like to get other people involved in it as well. And hopefully the listserv will be up, and
Okay.
if we can be of any help. let me know.
Okay, so if you all want, we can wait until the 20th to set a date, or if you're interested, if we're interested in doing this, I can provide my truck, I can provide sawhorses, I can provide circular saws,
So-
measuring devices, there's a bunch of stuff I have.
All right, well, I think we need to just lay it out and
Okay.
brainstorm a little bit so that we
Okay.
can, that would be great.
Yeah, the doors and the windows are gonna be something that not that day's gonna happen. Unless you get specific people dedicated with experience to do
I'm
that.
not good at,
The
I'm not
other
good at
thing-
race saddle doors.
The other things that can be done in a quick 1 day or an hour,
Right,
like
that's what I
several
mean.
different people seem a lot more practical
Right.
and
But there are residents in town who
Yeah.
have said that they would, you know. they
Yeah,
have
I know what you're
expertise.
going with.
Yeah.
And we got boards sticking off the gable end, you and I saw.
Right.
I noticed boards are sticking right into the mush or into the weeds in the back.
Mhm.
Why don't we try and, I've seen pictures of the round schoolhouse, that everything's cleared away around it. Well, it ain't cleared
And
away
then
around it.
Well, that's years ago.
Next week.
Yeah, of course it is. So, rot doesn't go away, it goes to powder.
Guys, one
Quick,
of these things.
just a quick question, I'm just totally out of the loop. Is the meeting house, do you have heat, are they having meetings now and it's heated and everything?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I
Just-
wasn't,
Not,
I was there
not
last
in the
night.
sanctuary.
Not sanctuary.
Do they?
no, but in the, okay,
Meeting room.
So called the annex or whatever it's called.
alright, so, but it's comfortable, everything's.
Yeah, I was there last night. Yep.
Great, oh, that's great, cause I know there was some delay with the furnace and the stove or whatever.
Oh, that's all in.
Okay, so that's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
Mark that. Thank you, Bruce.
I consider it a freaking compliment.
All right, highways and roads.
Lot me here. Stan.
Time limit.
A lot me here. Right.
I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told them, time limit.
Okay, alright, so last Friday, the rental machine went back to its where it came from. And I spent this past week up till now, trying to catch up with stuff that I put off while working in Brookline for the entire month of rental. So I do have a list of stuff that needs to get done in town that I will be working on from here on. A couple very important things to talk about tonight, and that would be the culvert that we purchased, the select board okayed that we replaced the culvert for the grant work in the flood damaged area. The culvert never showed up till the day before the machine went back. And I didn't find the culvert in the yard until I got back Thursday night, knowing that the machine was going away Friday morning. So I talked to Jeff Nugent about that grant up there. And that's the final step. If we install it, the grant will pay for it. I guess trying to get the select board's permission to pursue putting that culvert in.
Would you have, how would you get it put in?
I'm gonna have to probably rent a machine for 1 day to install that.
And that would be covered by the grant.
It would be covered by the grant, the installation, the culvert, gravel,
Everything.
so everything should be covered.
And remind me, this is the culvert where?
It was a 3-foot diameter culvert that we had a special meeting to vote to purchase, and it was an 8 to 10 week wait for this 2 culverts. And it's going just off the pavement on Putney Mountain Road, going up the hill. So it's where the most damage to Putney Mountain Road took place. And right now, the old culvert that's in there is mostly plugged and the water is coming out in areas it shouldn't. So eventually there'll be a sinkhole if we don't fix it. So just.
I think if that's a grant project, I don't see, we don't need to have us vote on it, but I think we will the consensus, Gwen, yes, yea and nay,
Do it.
do it,
Yeah,
do
no,
it. Bruce says yes, I say yes, David?
Yep.
Yep, okay, go for it.
All right, thank you.
thank you for letting us know
Sure, sure.
Will the road be closed while it's being installed? I can put a notice out if that's the case.
That would be great if we could. I would go to the other side and leave a poster over there stating. If I prepped everything and had the road closed from like 10 to 2. That would, then they can pass through as I do the details.
Do we have to notify the police department, fire department?
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying, we would notify the state troop police.
And I also have the steel plates the town purchased, I'll have those on site. And I can put those over a hole, if there's an emergency, I can flow traffic in 10 minutes.
Okay,
It's just easier to not put it in if, you know.
well, just let me know if you know you're gonna do it on a Wednesday, let me know Monday, and I'll make the calls to the
Okay.
authorities, Newbrook and the police
Sure.
about the road closure.
Alright,
And I'll put it on Facebook and Front Porch and wherever else we would put that information.
okay, that would be great. The other priority issue I have is, now hearing, I didn't go to the meeting, I didn't know, the meeting for FEMA. We have to report all of our damages by October 29th.
No, we have to sign up we need to get an applicant number by the 29th, and that needs 2 people. No, we don't need to have that data. I think once we are starting to work on it, I think by Thanksgiving, we'll have everything pretty much itemized.
Okay.
We could take up to 6 months, we have,
Alright.
but the sooner we get it done, the faster we can get our money. But for the amount of damage that we have, it's less than $130,000, or I think that's called a small project, and we have 6 months to do that for the debris and road damage.
Sure. So the reason my asking was,
It was informative.
I'm not completely done with the finished repairs.
Right.
We roughed the road in, it's been passable. However, to maintain it in the future, it doesn't have the surface gravel on the upper part of the mountain that was damaged.
I will say though, if we are using any stockpiled material that we bought last year, we still need to account for how many yards we used and then
Okay.
establish a value for that. Because it's nothing
Yes.
we're buying new, but we're still using it for the.
I would like to plan to set with the treasurer and you or whoever to go through my paperwork. I've asked for copies to be saved so that we can go through item per line.
Fabulous, but
And I can pinpoint where I got pictures
yes,
to bring out and so one important measure is the torn up pavement from the flood damage on Putney Mountain. There's quite a few feet of totally missing pavement, then there's half a road of pavement for a length, and then there's little juts cutting in where it kind of diminished. So the road will have to get cut and then prepped and paved. And I talked to Mark Pickering about this, and he recommended that we put that out for bid like soon, this fall, and award it and have it worded that it can be done now if they're available or in the spring. Because come springtime, when you go to put it out, they'll have already been working on their inventory of jobs. And so if we get ours out there ahead of schedule, we'll be sure and have it.
if you can get to, if before the next meeting, if you can get to me or meet with me and we'll talk about your parameters for what the bid would say.
Okay,
Length,
I'll get
width.
some measurements and width.
And then we can write the bid up and we can vote on it at the next meeting to
Sure.
put it in the newspaper.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, and you know, if it's not gonna take place immediately, I can prep it a little more for winter for snow plowing. There's some rough edges that I can work on. Yeah. Another issue I wanted to talk about tonight is that Hill Road. I started the job of the drainage issue on Hill Road near the power line. The trees were cut this summer, late summer, and then I worked on, with the rented machine, I worked on cleaning the ditch to find out how much ledge was along the corner. I was able to peel up some ledge with the excavator and made some major improvements. However, there's chunks of ledge that I couldn't even scratch, so in order to get the right amount of drainage around the corner, starting at Joe Anderberg's driveway, we would need to hire a hydraulic hammer to break the ledge up and have it moved. So I'm asking the board, not knowing that we're in wonder where we're at with the budget. I didn't know if the board would like to pursue this for this year or hold off till spring next summer to see where we're at with the budget.
Bruce?
Couple of things. I've looked at it a lot. There's two ledges there, isn't there? There's two pieces.
There's like 3 big pieces actually. Yeah,
Okay,
that come right to the edge of the pavement.
okay,
There's some that's a fourth that's, it's right at the dirt surface. If you're walking, you can actually see.
yeah,
So there's more
I see that one,
hidden
that's what I see.
than there's not. Might even be 5 big places that need him to bust it up.
Is this
smaller.
something you would do or you have
Oh,
somebody
no,
hired?
no, this would get done
by somebody
because
else?
we don't have the equipment right now.
Do you have any idea of the cost?
Well, I got an estimate, but not knowing if you wanna pursue it, and if you wanna pursue it, do you wanna put it out to bid?
So,
Thank you.
I've got a ballpark figure, but I don't wanna give away that
Oh,
figure
right.
because
Use your
if you're gonna,
Turn the camera away and use your hands. Okay,
Well,
now that the trees are gone, it's gonna allow the sunlight to come in.
dry things out.
Before it would ice up and sweep into the road and it just kept building. Now the salt that does get on it in the daylight will help immensely. But at some point to get that ledge that comes right to the pavement is pretty important.
Mark, without saying how much you think the estimate would be, if, I think we would probably have to put it out to bid with our purchase policy. And we could determine after the bids come in, whether or not we will have the knowledge from Samara, whether or not we could afford it
Sure.
or postpone it. And then I think we'll have to spend the newspaper ad money, whether or not we're going to do it anyway. So if besides the looking up the stuff for the salt and looking up the cost for the pavement, if we could come up with, I mean, I can write it down if you wanted to talk to me, and we can come up with an ad for a request for proposal for that. And if we can get those all approved at the next select board meeting, would it be too late to do it?
No, it's hard to tell when our winter weather is gonna set in, but if we continue to have a mild fall, it can be done right up until snow cover.
Okay, and we had talked about this before, but if we can't afford at this time to do it, we could mulch the area to prevent further erosion and then peel that mulch off and pick it up in the spring.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what is,
David has wanted to ask a question for David Jones.
David, yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess what I would say, my opinion is, I'm gonna read into most of what Mark has said, that we could afford, that we could wait to do this. And at this point, my opinion is any road work that we can wait to do, we should wait to do. Because just from a cash flow standpoint, if nothing else, we are spending a lot of money that we're not going to get 75% of that back potentially for a while. So I think unless we have to do it now, or we feel it's extremely important that we do it now, I think we should wait and do it in the spring.
that was one of the things, go ahead, Bruce?
Is that a one-day project, you think?
Yes,
Okay.
that's one of the.
And to say something about, you were referring to the FEMA, the money coming back, Dave. One thing you probably don't know, the 25%, 17% of the 25% would be refunded to us as well from the state. Other than FEMA, that you don't know about. But no, I'm
Yeah, that's
not
fine.
I'm not disagreeing with you,
It's-
I'm agreeing with you,
Yeah,
that we should
Right.
watch our money. I just wanted to inform you, if you didn't know, that we're gonna get more than we should be getting more than the 75% as per
That's
the
good.
meeting
That's good.
today. So, I guess I'm not into spending any money until I see what the financials look like, that's where I'm at. Like, that would be hypocritical, given what we just voted on before. That's where I'm with the electrical thing. I think we should see what it looks like and what last year looked like before we move forward with any major expenses.
Okay. Stan?
On this issue, I would agree with David and most of what you indicated as well, it's probably, I mean, obviously that corner is a bad corner. I've almost lost it several times in the years I've been here at the right weather condition without water going
Yeah.
across the road, and it's scary as the dickens.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that needs to be taken care of, and the line of sight is an important issue, but I would agree with David's sense of, and probably most of us, that if we could defer that till next year, it is an important project, but do it when we have a better handle on the budget, or at least more control over the budget.
And there also, like Doc said earlier, I believe there might be some mitigation project money to try and eliminate issues like that.
Right, we
around
might
town,
actually be able to
so-
do, add some ARPA in there
Yeah.
and make a separate
Mhm.
call
Yeah,
at another point.
that's possible.
But it would be a good idea if we could still put together what would an RFP look like for that? So I guess the consensus is to wait on this project, Mark, and that would be to button it up for winter with mulching at this time.
Okay.
But still, if we could get some statistics that we could plan for, but
Okay.
I agree, our cash flow is a little tight right now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but if the flood hadn't took place, things would be fairly normal, but
Right.
That's
I
true.
realize that's really
Right.
thrown a wrench in the budget.
Doc?
And I don't mind if at some point I can actually put out on the listserv what's happening, if somebody wants to know. I know some of the residents were concerned about what was happening and if it was unsightly and how much work what's it gonna look like, and that's what's happening. So I can help to touch base with those couple of neighbors. Stan?
Without providing a specific number, would you feel comfortable with what feedback you got indicating whether it's a 4-digit expense, a 5-digit expense?
Yeah, it's a 4-digit, it would be
Okay.
under,
Under 10,000?
under the purchase policy.
Just to give us a
Just under
feel.
the purchase policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. You can say
Just a
your-
quick question,
Yes.
that money on Putney Mountain Road is storm related?
The
On
big
Putney Mountain
culverts?
Road is-
No, the blacktop,
Yes.
is that storm, okay, cause we need to have
Storm
that, so we
related.
get credit, so we get our money back for it, okay?
Doc?
Yes,
As I understand, my understanding that we will probably get our money from FEMA in pretty decent time.
They said they're gonna be able to do it quicker because they're doing it remotely and they're not having to send out people, they're gonna rely on photographs,
Wow, that's good.
so.
Yeah, so we should be getting our money
Yeah.
They
by
said
the end of the year,
by the
right?
end of the year, maybe.
Hopefully, you know.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
okay, so. I mentioned that I wanna set with the treasurer and whoever just helped sort out the flood damage with the pictures and pointing out where,
Yes.
I also, I don't know how many others got the same email, but Megan Grump from V-Trans had put a email on stating that most every year, normally, we have our center lines painted on our class 2 road. And this year, there's a shortage on paint supplies and we may not see any painting refreshed on our roads. unless we have sections that are freshly paved with no lines, that might take priority to what does get done, but I think we may not see any fresh paint on class 2 immediately.
So the far is total. Jeez.
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Scary.
Yeah,
Thousands.
I'm not. Yeah, so basically, the other, what's left for flood damage repair is just putting finished gravel on the upper part of Putney Mountain where it was filled in with heavy rock and stabilized, so I wasn't sure if we should, because of the budget being where it is, it's very passable, we usually close the road. No maintenance after October, so should we hold off on replenishing that gravel? Or will we lose our window of opportunity for payment if I don't put it up there?
Oh,
Yeah, that's.
You know, how long is our window of opportunity gonna be for
6
big
months,
damage, bills, repairs?
6 months up
6 months from,
from,
Could you get the material and put it in the yard?
I
No, it
can-
has to be
I
applied.
Or it
can,
has to be
but,
applied?
I think storm related damage needs to be finished.
Yeah, it has
I
to,
think that's the, instead
it's the
of
only way they're
doing
gonna get
the
paid for it.
sightline, I think the storm related damage is something that we would like to say we're doing.
all right, that, I believe that's gonna be, you know, other than the culvert, I think in the paving, we're pretty much back to.
All right.
Was there any storm damage on Whitney Hill?
There was, and where I widened the road, took care of that damage. I've got some pictures, Mark Pickering from V-Trans said anything that's eroded more than 10 inches is considered flood damage. So I've got pictures in that same area for as long as I've been working for the town, has eroded storm after storm when you get the hard rains. So now I believe I've stopped the erosion from taking place. It's helped all the way around for drainage, for plowing, creating its
Okay.
traffic meeting now can pass without having to, you know, fall into the ditch. So, and I just, while I got the floor here, I just wanted to thank Samora for all her years of help. And I also just wanted to say that the 2 hills are the priority, they take priority for road maintenance. Because water picks up speed and creates more erosion on an incline, the flats tend to take the water easier. They will flood, but then they dissipate without any damage. So the hills, I generally check the hills first. And basically, as far as getting repairs done up, just because we don't have proper equipment to do more than just scrape them, is why sometimes roads tend to lack repair. So I just wanted to add that lack of material and equipment. I can scrape the roads, you know, day after day, but there's things like the drainage that needed the rental equipment and material. The other thing, you know, for the most part, Whitney Hill is maintenance free, other than a few ripples from cars tearing up the road and creating these washboards. A lot of times throughout the whole summer, there may be one pothole starting at the top. Maybe a few dead tree issues coming down. The only main issue for Whitney Hill was the eroded ditch on a very narrow section, which is taken care of. The other thing is mud season, and Whitney Hill, because the sun beams in at the right angle, softens this one section and creates mud season a few times a year, winter, spring. So we've started applying that crushed stone over it, and it's creating a mat that's gonna help year after year. We'll probably have to continue to add that,
Mhm.
but for the most
Until
part,
we pave it.
until we get done paving, yes. So, so this is the other thing I had mentioned to Dot one time there, recent, was having some material in stock at the town yard that wasn't froze together, because a lot of times come mud season, even if you have the stone pile, it's frozen together and you can't even scrape it apart. And I was thinking if we had a little building with a roof covered like the salt bay, you could put this crushed stone in there in the summertime and let it set in there out of the weather, and it would stay loose. When spring got here and you needed some repairs on the dirt roads, you could scoop that up, take it out, cover that mud and
Because right now that stone is out exposed. If you pull going to the lot,
and
it's just a
after
pile.
winter is covered it and it thaws and melts and freezes and it goes right down into it. So that's just, maybe down the road in the future, some thought into
Right.
how we can repair roads easier and on time.
I think David's gonna tell us that he's gonna have our salt shed built by Christmas.
Oh, well, that would be
Yeah.
a big red bow around it. Yeah, so anyway, that's the end of my.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. I know you work very hard, and I think when you're dealing with the residents and that they appreciate your honesty and
I try to treat
Everybody-
everybody the same, everybody fair.
Yep.
I try not to favor any roads. I go where needed.
I do have to say though, we were a little surprised when Alta Equipment sent us another bill for another month for the excavator, and I know it went back because I checked, but I did call them and say, we don't have it, so we're
I
not paying
spoke
it.
directly to the rental person and said we were all set for 1 month and
Yeah, no, I know.
maybe they were just.
Stuff happens.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that we table the loan discussion for the equipment purchase this evening, because of the time.
Doc, can I just ask, I have a question
Yes,
for
sir.
Mark. Mark,
Yes.
the Parker Road grant work,
Yes,
so we need to, that's all complete now, right?
with the exception of the seed and grass,
Okay.
the seed and the hay shred, which will take place right away.
Okay, yeah, because we have to have all that work done before October 31st.
Yes,
And we have to
okay.
have all the invoices for all of that. Clearly say before October 31st so that we can put that together. So I know at one point, I remember, I think you said Archie said he was gonna do something related to that grant, or do I still need to put together the grant
I think what I
request?
did, I asked Archie if he'd be willing to take over the grant applications and stuff, but I think I had told him that you were gonna take care of the Parker Road one, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. So maybe we don't have to figure it out right now, but maybe at our next meeting, you and I should figure out a time that we can meet, and because we'll need to pull together all of the invoices related to it and complete all of the paperwork to submit to the state to get the reimbursement for that. So
Okay. Yeah.
let's think about
And
maybe figuring that out at the next meeting. We can figure out a time to do that.
sure, now, everything was done that was asked for on paper, with the exception of the seed and the hay. And
Okay.
I've already made plans to rent a hay shooter that'll blow the hay and seed on all the projects that I've done in town in one day. So that'll be the final step, which will be,
Okay.
if not this week, beginning of next week.
Okay, cool. That's great.
And I think the last thing was a picture
Yeah, right. So maybe we can do that at the same time. Once you're done with that, we can make a plan to go through and find all the invoices, and we can
Yeah.
take the pictures and everything, and I can submit all that.
Okay,
cool.
sounds good. I can let you know as soon as I'm done with the hay project.
Okay, yeah.
And after that,
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
yeah.
All right, very good. Anything else? We move along? All right, communications,
So
email.
Dot, sorry, Dot, I
Yes, yes.
think there was discussion about the salt sand shed. So just an FYI, I submitted a grant application on Friday for the municipal mitigation grant to hopefully possibly get us a little over $100,000 more to try to make up most of the additional estimated cost on the salt sand shed. What I will say is that if we get this money, so there's another grant, this transportation alternatives grant, which is due in November. We're also going to apply for that grant because we won't know whether we got some or all of the money from the first grant before the deadline for the second grant. So unfortunately, we have to apply for both of them and hope that somehow we get a lot of money. But what I will say, and this is another reason that we should probably be careful, relatively speaking, about how much money we spend, is that assuming we get enough money to be able to do this project next year, under any circumstances, the amount of our match out of pocket money from the town is definitely going to be more than what we anticipated when you guys did the grant application 5 years ago. So it's definitely going to cost us more. Hopefully we can get enough grant money, additional grant money, that it doesn't cost us substantially more, but it's going to be more than we expected. So we're going to have to come up with more match out of our highway funds than we had anticipated before. So that's more money that's coming down the pike that we're going to have to spend.
Are the project managers' fees going to remain the same?
I expect they will. And those, not to get too far into it, but I finally, for the first time, I think since I finally saw all of the grant application stuff. And for whatever reason, we had a series, I don't want to digress too much, but we had a bunch of conversations a few years ago about how we hadn't built in money for project management when we applied for these grants. And actually we did. We did put in money for project management. However, we didn't put in money for design engineering. Ron Bell's money was never budgeted for in the grant application that was originally put in. So hopefully we get enough additional grant money that it all washes out. But yeah, so that's
Thank you very much, David, for working on this and continuing following through with the oversight. We're very, very appreciative. And it's just something else you don't have to be able to handle. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. All right, communications, email. I think we talked about the emails as far as the different open houses and some of the residents' things, and I'm gonna go through the regular mail right now very quickly. We have a letter for Abatum Exterminating reminding us that there is time to treat our homes for mice. We have a letter from Vermont Family Network thanking us for the contribution of the appropriation of $250. That is the Vermont Family Network. There is a letter from Vermont Center for Independent Living. It is a thank you for the appropriation of $80 to them at the our town meeting. We have a letter from, another letter saying that they are asking us to give an appropriation of $250 for this upcoming year. We have a letter from the Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance thanking us for, asking for an appropriation of $110 to help pay for monitoring of the rivers. So this goes to the treasurer for appropriations. Battery's running low.
The thing I'll note about all that stuff, Dot, is that we should really be, the appropriations requests, you guys should be making a folder for us because we're the ones who are going to put together the whole budget, and probably more so than last year. So,
Okay.
so requests for appropriations, what, like we've always done, we would go through those as a select board when we get to our budget discussion. So
Okay.
you might want to just make a folder yourself and know where that is.
Okay. American Red Cross thanking us for $250, and and then there's a town meeting postcard. All right, right now we're gonna continue on to payroll warrant. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the payroll warrant number 2022-13. That is dated September 29th, 2021, in the amount of $1,805.93. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? I will note that I have signed this payroll warrant Tuesday. I came in on Tuesday and signed it since it was, people got it through direct deposit anyway.
No, actually Saturday.
I came in Saturday, okay. So that's my discussion. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-13 dated September 29th, 2021 for $1,805.93 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I'd like to make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant number 2022-14 dated October 6th, 2021 in the amount of $287,293.85. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan Noga. Discussion. I will make note that this includes the rental of the wheeled excavator. It includes more flood damage materials, and it also includes almost $250,000 that goes to the West River Modified Union Education District. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2022-14 dated October 6th for $287,293.85 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. All right, very quickly, I'm going to go through for the agenda. One will be 2 voting members to be appointed to the town of Brookline to the Regional Emergency Management Committee. Number 2, Samara will be here to discuss the unaudited end of year. We will also have a response from the auditors about an external audit and its needs. We will finalize the job description for the road supervisor. We will have a bid for the salt for the winter written and ready for approval for publishing. And we also would like to have the bid ready for approval, ready for publishing for the pavement on Putney Mountain Road, which was damaged, and the other items that come up, I can add.
Just
okay?
to clarify though, Dot, we won't publish anything for the salt.
Oh,
We don't do an
Okay.
RFP for the salt. We get we get pricing from hopefully one or more vendors, and then we pick one, but we don't
Okay.
publish anything.
okay, thank you for reminding me. I was wondering why it was not clicking. All right, anything else? All right,
We really need to decide when we're gonna start working on the budget. Um,
So you get the year end stuff.
Yeah, and we're getting the year-end stuff in October 20th, so we're gonna have to probably have like a budget meeting in November, just for talking budget. I think, and
This is
So-
everything else out.
you wanna make it, you wanna?
So you got, no, I just want to make sure we don't wait too long.
No, I mean, there, yeah, okay.
We really can't
I
decide
had
till
asked
we
for
hear
several times for the treasurer to report earlier on other agendas, and I didn't do it today, but so. Yeah, we'll be working on it November, December, and hopefully we can get it done. Okay? All right, hearing that, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 9:23. Thank you very much for this lengthy meeting, but we got a lot done.
Thank you.
If you hit the stop recording.
Okay, let me hit stop recording.
Recording stopped.
Night,
Hi,
Peter. Thank you.
Hi, Peter. All right, very nice day.
Hey, Guy,
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
or someone,
He's here.
is Fact TV still?
Let me move them.
Hold on, chief, you're moving them out.
Or Friday night, we'll talk things out a little bit.
Yep.
Just-
I can't seem to get the mouse to hang.
Go into participants, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
I
one
put it on.
participants,
Yeah.
I want
Oh,
to
yeah, start tomorrow.
Thank you.
move to waiting room. Where's the-
But I'm gonna find